The next 12 months were extremely difficult.
I was 18 when I first went into treatment.
Demi was diagnosed bipolar when she checked into treatment the first time.
When I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, it just made sense. When I was younger, I didn't know why I would stay up so late writing and playing music. And then I learned about episodes of mania. And I realized that that's probably what it was. I was manic. In a way, I knew that it wasn't my fault anymore. Something was actually off with me.
She had such a glow to her the first time I saw her when she came out of treatment. The glow started to fade each day that passed.
I wasn't working my program. I wasn't ready to get sober. I was sneaking it on planes, sneaking it in bathrooms, sneaking it throughout the night. Nobody knew.
This is an 18-year-old who's totally outmaneuvering adults.
I went on like a bender of like 2 months where I was using daily, and there was one night where I used a bunch of coke and I popped a few Xanax bars and I started to choke a little bit and my heart started racing. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I might be overdosing right now.
I remember we were in New York and she clearly was on something, and she was on air promoting this new way of life. And I was like, you're so full of it. I wasn't equipped to be able to handle that situation. And so I got a list of several recommendations of people that specialize in this, and I ended up connecting and speaking with Mike Baer.
Demi was on a road to like suicide. She'd have like bags of pills and an 8-ball of coke.
I was either craving drugs or on drugs.
She is nasty.
I was not easy to work with. I was using while I had a sober companion. And I went through about 20 different sober companions.
It was really like she was two different people. Every day was like going to war.
We were in Palm Springs and she locked her bedroom door. She's just taken a bunch of pills. We kick down the door. She gets taken to the hospital. The nurse is checking her in. The bottle of pills is there. She grabs the pills. She then downs all the other pills and says, you bitch. If I just tried to kill myself, why would you give me access to pills?
I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel embarrassed.
Then she goes from there to a psych ward. None of that did anything. She still isn't wanting to get clean. She's so black and white. She really one day would want to get well, the next day not want to get well. And when she didn't want to get well, she'd have to flip back to, it was just, for her, it was chaotic.
It was completely exhausting, physically and emotionally.
I would sneak out, get drugs.
Manipulating.
I would fake my drug tests with other people's pee.
She didn't care what the consequences were.
A couple days sober, and then she'd use.
And I'd lie straight to their faces.
She didn't care about her career.
And we couldn't get momentum on our side.
It was very difficult to work off that very small part of her that did want to get well.
It's embarrassing to look back at the person that I was. The very last night that I drank, I was at a hotel and I invited 2 random people and basically just drank with them. I got really, really drunk until it was time to get on a flight. And I was so drunk that I threw up in the back of the car service on the way to the airport to perform on American Idol.
Ladies and gentlemen, Demi Lovato.
When your lips are on my lips, then our hearts beat one.
Here she is. She goes to American Idol. She's hungover. She has total disregard for it. It was a horrible feeling.
I felt like that was a moment in my career where I didn't care.
Demi was clearly in a bad place.
I just knew that I needed to be high to get through what I was going through at that point.
I remember asking Mike, when is it time to step away? And Mike said to me, when she stops trying. At that moment, I was fully intending to drop her.
You hear about interventions or families laying ultimatums and saying, like, you either change or you're out?
Change has to happen now.
The most important thing to Demi, it's losing people. It's losing people that she cares about and that loves her. That's the most important thing to Demi.
I had developed a plan where I got everybody on the team, business manager, attorneys, agents, everybody, to say, if Phil walks, we walk. This was the showdown of all showdowns.
It wasn't a matter of if they were going to leave. It was, we are leaving. There's no more that we can do for you.
I remember her crying, going, what the fuck do I need to do? What do I need to do?
And Mike said,
give us your cell phone.
And I think he said, like now. And she picked up the plate.
She literally is grabbing this thing, smashing it, screaming, crying, like in the ugly cry.
And I said, that's not good enough.
Phil said, put it in the water.
And so she dunked it in the vase of water that was on the table. It's wild. This was the gateway to everything. This was the wrong people. It was drug dealers. It was a lot of the negative influences in her life were coming through the cell phone.
I think that approach worked for me because it sounds silly, but it was the beginning of the process of surrendering. At the end of the day, it was my decision.
Meanwhile, she's a judge on X Factor. She's 19 years old, and she's in her first year of sobriety.
What nobody knows is that while she was a judge, she's living in a sober apartment with roommates. She is having to do chores. She has no cell phone. She is completely and totally submitted to the process of recovery.
You really have to lean into the people that are trying to support you, like my family, like Mike and Phil. You know, you really have to surrender because that's when the change is going to happen.